بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أعزائي الطلبة، يتجدد بكم اللقاء في الجزء الثاني سيكشن بي محاضرة كورنيال كولاجين كروس لينكينج. About the third generation corneal cross-linking. Now, this third generation came to address the problems that faces the doctors during the applications of the second generations, namely the problem of thin corneas and how to overcome the limitation of 400 micrometer of the thickness of the cornea for the cross-linking, and also the different ways to overcome these problems. Also, some other new protocols to overcome the problem of oxygen diffusion and the concentration of oxygen within the cornea during the procedure, either by application of the periocular oxygen supplementation or the use of the pulse mode of the ultraviolet delivery. Also, we will speak about the sub 400 protocols, which is invented by Farhad Hafizi. Now we will speak about the special protocols that invented for the thin corneas. As you know, that the minimum corneal thickness after epithelial debridement, as we said, should be more than 400 micrometer to guarantee the safety of the endothelium. Now, for extreme cases of keratoconus in which you find the corneal thickness is much below the 400 safety margin, so there are some special protocols to solve this problem. Among these protocols is the contact lens assisted cross-linking, abbreviated as ADA-CXL, to overcome the reduced thickness of the cornea. We use special hypermobility contact lenses. This is invented by Suzanne Jacob. Also, the use of hyperosmolar riboflavin, as invented by Hafiz Farhad et al. From Switzerland, as the hyperosmolar riboflavin will swollen the cornea. Also, the different transepithelial protocols to preserve the epithelium to increase the thickness of the cornea. The lenticule assisted cross-linking, and this is done in a special hospital where there is facility for smile surgery. So the stromal lenticule is placed over the cornea to increase the thickness of the cornea. Also, customized epithelial debridement techniques that you do debridement for the thick corneas and keep the thin cornea without removal of the epithelium. Also, the sub 400 protocol by Hafiz Farhad et al. And also finally the pachymetry assisted cross-linking. One of the common examples of thin cornea protocols is the contact lens assisted corneal cross-linking. As I said, this is invented by Suzanne Jacob from India. The idea is that we compensate the reduced thickness of the cornea by adding around 80 to 100 micrometer contact lens. This contact lens has hypermobility for the riboflavin, and also it has hypermobility for the ultraviolet rays, so that it will overcome the reduced thickness of the cornea. And then we apply the ultraviolet rays over the contact lens so that we mimic the normal thickness cornea, and we apply the standard protocol with epithelial off technique. Now, the drawback or the disadvantage of this technique that applying the contact lens over the cornea, this will reduce the availability of oxygen and oxygen permeability. And as you know that the cross-linking is dependent on the oxygen concentration. That's why many studies done regarding this technique and shows that the efficacy of the cross-linking is reduced by 30% as compared to the standard Dresden protocols. So it is useful in thin corneas, but the efficacy will be reduced as compared to the standard epithelial of Dresden protocol. The other common type of the thin cornea protocols, which is invented by Hafiz et al. At 2009, This is based on the principle of using hypoosmolar riboflavin. This will create a osmotic pressure and swelling inside the stroma. So this will overcome the decreased thickness of the cornea. And the hypoosmolar riboflavin around 310 milliosmol, and it is devoid of dextran. It is just only riboflavin with hydroxypropyl methylcellulose. Now, the same technique that we do epithelial off technique, and we apply this hypoosmolar riboflavin 0.1%, as I said, dextran free, and we add 1 drop every 5 to 7 minutes and check the pachymetry. Once more than 400, you go with the standard protocols. Now, the same thing, the many studies done about this technique, and they show good response and effective cross-linking, but it is not as comparable as the standard Dresden protocol, because the same thing, the hypoosmolar agents and the swelling effect on the cornea is not predictable, and it differs from cornea to cornea, and also they stretch and the swelling between the interfibrillar spaces between the collagen fibers also will limit the efficacy of the cross-linking. So this is another type of thin cornea protocols using hypoosmolar riboflavin. The third type for thin cornea protocol is known as the smile lenticule assisted epithelial cross-linking. It is same as epithelial off cross-linking. We add the stromal lenticule after doing a smile surgery for any patients. The part of the stroma that removed from any patients is placed over the cornea to increase the thickness and compensate for the reduced thickness of the cornea. And then we apply the riboflavin to this lenticule so that it will penetrate through the stroma and then reaching to the good concentration inside the cornea. And then apply the classical Dresden protocol for 30 minutes. Also, this type shows good effect in the cross-linking in thin corneas, but the limitation of this technique that it need to be in a special hospital where the facility for femto smile is available to do this procedure. Now we come to the fourth type for the protocols for the thin cornea, which also belongs to the third generation cross-linking techniques, is known as the transepithelial enhanced and high fluence cross-linking. Enhancement means we enhance the penetration of the riboflavin by the use of iontophoresis, and the high fluence to compensate for the intact epithelium. So we increase the intensity of the ultraviolet rays and the exposure for 30% extra so that we compensate for the presence of intact epithelium. So iontophoresis is a non-invasive technique based on the principle of two electrodes, one in the cornea and one in the forehead of the patient, so that we create a electrical current that enhances the penetration of the negatively charged riboflavin inside the corneal tissues by the process of electropulsion and electroosmosis. Now, this technique, especially using the enhanced high fluence and pulsed light iontophoresis, was published by a paper done by Mazzotti at 2018, and he shows a very promising result as far as the depth of the demarcation line, and that the depth reaches up to 290 micrometer in 80% of the patients. So this new technique or a new protocol enhance the visibility of demarcation line deeper as compared to the standard transepithelial protocols. And by enhancement, we means that we encourage the penetration of riboflavin using this technique. That's the iontophoresis. And by high fluence, we increase the total energy delivered to the cornea. Instead of 5.4 as in standard protocols, we increase it by 30% to reach up to 7 joules per cubic square centimeter in order to compensate for the ultraviolet energy barrier attenuation made by the intact epithelium. Also, he uses the pulsed light to give a chance for the replenishment of the oxygen intraoperatively, and also he give an intraoperative high oxygen concentration to augment the photochemical reaction inside the cornea. So this is also belong to the third generation cross-linking techniques, and it has very good effects, especially in thin corneas. Now, still we are in the context of the protocols for thin cornea. The last protocol is the pachymetry-based accelerated mathematical CXL, or the M-nomogram, which was invented by Mazzotti at 2018. This protocol, based on a large study, he compared the depth of the demarcation line by different protocols available and by different machines, and compare it with the in vivo confocal microscopy and anterior segment OCT, and he can postulate a mathematical expectation for the demarcation line, where will be using a particular protocol. It is to some extent resemble the protocol made by Hafizi et al., which is the sub 400 protocol, or the individualized protocol. But this protocol is based on in the programs done by different types of machines. So for each thickness of the cornea, based on this nomogram, you should use special protocol, and or the reverse, that for a special protocol you can expect at what depth your demarcation line where will be. This is a study done by Mazzotti, as I said, and you can see here that the mathematical expectation of the demarcation line, as confirmed, they found high correlation between the mathematically expected line for depth of demarcation line by CXL by different protocols, matching what is seen practically with the in vivo confocal microscopy or by anterior segment OCT. Still in the context of cross-linking for thin cornea, we have another recent protocol, which is known as the individualized cross-linking, or CXL, based on the pachymetry. Now, this individualized protocol, it differs than the customized protocols that we will speak about them later on. Individualized, we means that we adjust the parameters of the energy or the ultraviolet delivery to the patient, so that it is specific for that type of cornea based on his pachymetry. And before we go deeply in this principle, I just like to explain what's meant by adaptive fluence. Now, before, as you can see from the previous discussion, that all the procedures that we have done to suit the ultraviolet delivery, that we have to have a safety margin of 400 micrometer thickness of the stroma. And if we have a thin cornea less than this amount, we have to adjust the cornea in such a way so that we keep this safety level. Adjusting the cornea by adding either a stromal lenticule, or adding a contact lens, or keeping the epithelium of the patient, and we adjust the energy delivery so that we will not harm or endanger the endothelium. All these techniques was based on that we modify the cornea to suit the technique or the ultraviolet energy that we have delivered. Now, the new principle came up as invented by Hafizi et al. At 2021, that instead of we modify the cornea, why not we modify the ultraviolet energy to suit that type of thin cornea. This is known as adaptive fluence. So that we adapt the specific fluence based on nomogram, so that we will have the safety level that we will not damage or endanger the endothelium, but we don't add any structure over the cornea. This is the principle of adaptive fluence. As you know, the fluence is a multiplication of the intensity of the ultraviolet versus the exposure time. So if we adjust the exposure time, we can adjust the amount of fluence. As you can see here, that instead of adapting the cornea to my technique, why not we don't adapt the technique to my cornea? This is the principle of adaptive fluence. So in this nomogram, or in this protocol, which is named as sub 400 protocol, which is invented by Hafizi et al. For example, if we have a stromal thickness of 400 micrometer, as you can see here, now we need a fluence of 5.4 joule per square centimeter. However, if we have a thinner cornea, so according to his nomogram, we will adjust the fluence here so that we will not damage or endanger the endothelium. Similarly, if you have the corneal thickness or the stromal thickness here is 290, we have another figure of the fluence so that we don't endanger the endothelium. So there was a big study conducted by Hafizi et al. And published in the American Journal at 2021. He published the nomogram for his sub 400 protocol. And for example, if you can see, this cornea is very thin cornea of around 280 micrometer thickness, stromal thickness. This patient will need 5 milliwatt ultraviolet energy, and the demarcation line will be around 210 micrometer. So this is what's meant by individualized protocol. A lot of the pilot studies done on this protocol and shows very effective and very safe as far as the endothelium, and is still there is large studies still going on regarding the efficacy of this protocol. This is known as individualized cross-linking. As I said before, it should be differentiated from the customized CXL that we will speak about it later on, in which we customize the pattern of energy delivery to the cornea and giving differential amount of energy to different parts of the cornea. We'll discuss about the details about this later on. Now, finally, we come to the conclusion and to sum up the protocols for thin corneas that the doctors and the companies manage the thin corneas that's below 400 micrometer thickness of the stroma by modifying the riboflavin concentration or the riboflavin content, so that we have the hypoosmolar riboflavin and the riboflavin for transepithelium, like the ricrodin with enhancer, and also by modifying the thickness of the cornea by adding a contact lens on the top of the cornea, thin cornea, or using special cornea tissue inlay like the lenticule for stromal lenticule, or by modifying the fluence like the sub 400 protocol, or the adaptive fluence that we adapt the fluence based on the thickness of the cornea. So this is in summary how the thin protocols are working. Further optimization of the third generation's corneal cross-linking techniques, apart from the optimization for thin corneas that we have mentioned, the different protocols. Further optimization made for the increase in the fluence of the ultraviolet energy, so that they increase the ultraviolet fluence by 30% from 5.4 joule as in classical Dresden protocols, or in the accelerated protocols, to a 7.2 and sometimes up to 10 joules per square centimeter, and also adapting the riboflavin solutions by increasing the concentration of riboflavin from 0.1% to 0.15% and up to 0.25 and 0.35%. Of course, in combination with hydroxypropyl methyl cellulose rather than the dextran. Also adapting the riboflavin administration, as we have said before, like the iontophoresis technique, so that they enhance the penetration of the negatively charged riboflavin molecules to increase the concentration of riboflavin to be adapted to the high fluence of the ultraviolet energy. Also adapting the pulsed ultraviolet delivery by 1:1, that's one pulse and one off, so that this will improve to replenish the depleted oxygen from the stromal lamellae of the cornea. All these, along with the supplemental off-poster goggles to increase the oxygen concentration inside the cornea to enhance the efficacy of the this type of corneal cross-linking. So you can understand at the end of the third generations that a lot of
attempts has been made to improve the efficacy of these accelerated protocols. As we have said that the accelerated protocols face a lot of problems as far as the efficacy as compared to the classical Dresden protocols. So the doctors try to overcome these obstacles by increasing the riboflavin concentration inside the eye, and also the oxygen concentration and the mode of delivery of the ultraviolet rays by increasing the effluence. All these attempts are aimed to improve the efficacy and the photochemical reaction of the accelerated protocols. This is maximum optimization done to improve the transepithelial accelerated protocols. And this is the end of the third generation protocols. In the next slides, we will speak about the fourth generations protocols for corneal crosslinking.
Now, this pyramid shows the evolution of the corneal crosslinking. We have finished so far the first generations and the second generations and the third generations. Now we are sitting in the top of the pyramid. That's the high fluence area. So the next slides we will speak about the fourth generations corneal crosslinking, which is the latest advances in the corneal crosslinking techniques. Now we come to the fourth generation of corneal crosslinking protocols, which is known as the customized protocols. As I said before, that the principle of customized CXL protocols based on the idea that keratoconus is a focal disease due to a focal defect in the corneal biomechanics, and by applying a gradient of energy over the cornea so that the weaker areas of the cornea will receive more energy and more stronger areas receives less energy. So by this way we can treat the cornea without significant exposure to the ultraviolet energy, especially to the normal areas of the cornea. Many studies done on this type of protocols in the primary or the first generations customized CXL, and it shows there is a significant improvement in the stability as well as improvement in the topography of the cornea after this type of gradient energy delivery to the cornea. And they show that improvement not only in the stability but also in the visual acuity because of the improvement in the topography. So the prototypes of this customization was the topography or wavefront guided protocols known as the curve, which stands for customized remodeling of vision protocols, and also what's known as the photorefractive intrastromal corneal crosslinking, that they apply the same principle not only in keratoconus patients but can be applied in low grades of myopia and also with a mild degree of astigmatism, so that you will selectively apply this energy to the steeper areas of the cornea, preserving the other intact parts of the cornea. Then came the second generation customized CXL, which is the BAC-CXL, which stands for BTK assisted customized EB-on CXL. In this type also there is no tissue removal, just we remove the epithelium with the BTK and then apply the same principle with certain modification in the fluence type and the also gradient in the riboflavin delivery, so that this provide a very effective way, as effective as the classical Dresden protocol, and also it opens the spectrum towards utilizing the CXL not only for maintaining the stability or arrest the progression of the disease, but also for visual improvement. Finally, we will speak about the combined protocols that utilizes the cross-linking along with the vision correction techniques, so that we maintain the stability as well as improvement on the vision. Now we come to another version of cross-linking, which is known as the customized cross-linking. Customized cross-linking basically depend on the customizing the energy delivery to the cornea based on the shape of the cone. And the theoretical background for this principle based on the studies done by Berroin microscopy, which studies the elastic property of the cornea,
And they said that since keratoconus is a focal disease, so when they study the elastic property of the cornea, comparing the normal cornea with keratoconus, they found that there is maximum reduction in the elastic property of the cornea over the apex of the cone, and near normal elasticity at the periphery of the cornea as compared to the normal people. So the idea came that why we deliver the whole irradiance of energy to the whole cornea, we should just concentrate over the apex of the cone much more energy as compared to the mid-peripheral part of the cornea. And for this principle, they did many studies, and they made different patterns and modules for the customizing the energy delivery to the cornea, so that, for example, for a nipple cone, we will have maximum energy delivery to the center as compared to the mid-peripheral part and then to the peripheral part of the cornea. And for inferior displaced cone, the central sector will have more energy, for example, 10 joule, as compared to the para-central one, and as compared to the far peripheral one. So by this way, we deliver the energy, customizing the delivery of the energy based on the shape of the cone. Now we come to the fourth generation corneal cross-linking technique, which is known as the customized protocols or the topography or tomography guided corneal cross-linking. The idea of this type of cross-linking is based on the tomography, that we determine the weak area of the cornea or the apex of the cornea or the apex of the cone, and we provide more energy for that area. As you know from our understanding for the corneal biomechanics, that keratoconus is a focal disease that's due to a focal defect in the corneal biomechanics, so that if we provide more energy to the weak area of the cornea, this will regularize and redistribute the stress through the cornea, so that this will lead to stabilization and halt the progression of the keratoconus. This is the principle of the topography or tomography guide. Now, the word tomography is preferred than topography because we estimate the collocation based on the averaging between the thinnest corneal point and the maximum anterior elevation and the maximum posterior elevation. So an average point between these three maps, we determine the apex of the cone and provide more energy. Many studies done shows that the tomography customized corneal cross-linking is a safe and effective technique as the conventional or the standard corneal cross-linking, and also it will promote the healing or rapid healing of the cornea and preserve the nerves of the cornea, because we provide only the high energy toward the weak area only, so that we spare the peripheral areas, that's the normal areas of the cornea. So the effectiveness of this customized approach has been proved by many studies that it is as effective as the standard Dresden protocols. And the idea, as I said, that we provide more energy to the weak area of the cone, that's the central part of the cone. And for example, like this, in 10 joule is provided in the center, then another circle of 7 joule, and then another circle of 5 joules. So this mosaic pattern of ultraviolet energy delivery has been found to be very effective in halting the progression of keratoconus. And as I said, that many studies done and showed that this protocol is as effective as the standard cross-linking technique. This is the machine which is provided by Avidro, that's known as the KSL2 system, that provide this mosaic pattern of energy delivery. As you can see, different patterns can be customized based on the shape of the cone and deliver the energy accordingly. One of the famous examples of the topography guided protocols known as the curve, which is the customized remodeling vision mosaic pattern, which it allows a pattern topography guided accelerated cross-linking just in a few minutes by providing more energy to the weaker part of the cone and less energy to the more peripheral part. It is an accelerated protocol using between 9 milliwatts seconds up to 100 milliwatts, with a total dose up to 15 joules can be delivered. So this is common and famous example of the topography guided cross-linking protocols. Another addition done for this protocol is to add the feature of tracking to provide very precise ultraviolet energy to the weaker areas of the cone. So they include the tracker system so that the energy will be delivered exactly in the same location regardless the movement of the eye. For example, if you can see this, the red ring, the green ring is the representing the area which is soaked by riboflavin, and this is the profile for the ultraviolet, so that in the absence of tracking system you can see that the eye is moving but the profile of the ultraviolet is fixed, so this will not provide a very good precise topography guided cross-linking technique. However, after incorporating the tracking system, as you can see here, both the eye movement and the profile of the ultraviolet are coincided together, so this will provide very excellent tracking for the eye and excellent delivery and topography guided cross-linking. Some investigator utilizes the principle of topography guided CXL so that they introduce what's known as the pixel, which is a photorefractive intrastromal cross-linking. Now, this mode of treatment is not aimed for keratoconus patients, but they aim to treat very small degrees of myopia and to some extent some cases of astigmatism by selectively targeting some areas of steep parts of the cornea by this technique based on the topography, so that they will induce focal flattening of that part of the cornea. So they claim that it will improve to some extent mild cases of myopia and also some cases of astigmatism. This is known as pixel photorefractive intrastromal cross-linking. As I said, this is not necessarily aimed for keratoconus patients, but with patients with myopic astigmatism, and initial results shows marked improvement of mild cases of myopia with astigmatism. Now we will speak about the second generation customized CXL. We finished the first generations. Now the time for the base CXL, which is pachymetry assisted customized AB-on CXL. Now we come to the second generation of customized CXL, which also belong to the overall fourth generation CXL techniques. So it is a second generation because it utilizes a principle of concentration gradient for the riboflavin, as well as a profile gradient for the ultraviolet, and using a second generation penetration enhancer. The idea is that we establish a riboflavin concentration gradient within the stroma by making a small window of PTK removal of the epithelium using the PTK based on the epithelial map. Now, based on this epithelial map, we can determine the apex of the cone, and just we remove the epithelium over that apex of the cone so that we create a small window in the epithelium. As you can see here, this is the small window. So this window will act as if a combination of both AB-on technique as well as AB-off technique. So we'll utilize the benefits of AB-off cross-linking and also the benefits of AB-on cross-linking. Now, after that, we apply the riboflavin so that the riboflavin, once applied, so there will be a concentration gradient because the penetration will be more, especially after utilizing a second generation penetration enhancer. So the penetration to the normal cornea will be less. However, the penetration over the area of AB-off will be more. And then there will be another intermediate zone of concentration gradient. So this is a gradient of riboflavin. As you know, riboflavin is in a direct proportional relationship with the effect of cross-link, so that there will be a linear relationship for the cross-linking effect based on this concentration gradient. Similarly, once we apply the ultraviolet profile, which is special pulsed slow irradiance, high fluence ultraviolet, so that the penetration of the ultraviolet over the window of the EB-off will be more, so this will exert more effect, and the penetration over the intermediate zone will be less because this is an EB-on, and also the penetration over the far periphery will be less. Another thing, the machine is already customized so that it will have special profiles based on the shape of the cone, so that the machine will be programmed by the software so that more energy will be delivered to this area and more energy, less energy to this area and less energy to this area. So we will have both a ultraviolet profile gradient as well as riboflavin concentration gradient. Both of them will act in such a way, in such customization, so that more effect will be on the steeper part of the cornea. So there will be more flattening in this area as compared to the periphery. So we will induce more both flattening as well as coupling effect, so that you will induce flattening in this area and steepening in that area. So this will lead to a marked improvement in the shape of the cornea, as well as also improvement in the visual function of the patient. They claim that up to 10 diopters can be improved in the Kmax by this technique, and the effect is very effective within the first 3 months. So as you can see here, this is some of the pictures of the topography patients before the PACE CXL, and this is after around 4 weeks after the PACE. You can see this is the difference map. So it is inducing a flattening in this area and also induces a steepening in the peripheral part. So this is the coupling effect. And now this coupling effect is not seen in LASIK. So we can induce both refractive changes as well as regularization of up to 12 diopters, as they say. So your patient will notice a significant improvement in his visual acuity, and this make the patients ready for any subsequent wavefront guided BRK later on, so that you preserve the cornea. You don't remove any part of the stroma, you just remove the epithelium that will heal later on. And when you induce up to 10 to 12 diopter of improvement, this will make your patient is ready for further customized ablation. So you will apply the two principles, customized CXL as well as customized ablations. And this is also open the door that we can apply this technique even in a patient with stable keratoconus. Not necessarily he has progressive keratoconus, as you know, the main indication of corneal cross-linking in the presence of progressive keratoconus. But because of the marked improvement in the refraction of the patients and improvement in the stability of the cornea as well as the shape of the cornea, we can use it even in a normal, in a keratoconus patient without any signs of progression, so that we will improve the quality of vision of this patient. Now, if you can see here the demarcation line by this way, so you can see that the deep demarcation line over the area of the cone. This is because of the deep concentration of the riboflavin as well as the ultraviolet, and the peripheral part of the cornea, which is the normal cornea, has superficial demarcation lines. So we only cross-link or induce the photochemical reaction of the cross-linking over the steep area, that's the apex of the cone. So in conclusion, the PACE offer a massive regularization of the shape of the cornea with improvement of the visual acuity without any removing of any tissues like in LASIK, and it can open the door for managing even non-progressive keratoconus and also help to stabilize progressive keratoconus. Now, to understand why the PACE CXL as a second generation customized CXL is more stronger than the first generation CXL. As I said before, that the first thing that we treat the tip of the cone with an EB-off protocol, which is an epithelial map driven BTK. This mixed with EB-on at the rest of the cornea, so this create an riboflavin gradient. And the other thing, that the epithelium over the tip of the cornea absorbs oxygen, as you know, and ultraviolet, and forms as a barrier for the penetration of the riboflavin and oxygen to the stroma. So by removing the epithelium from the tip of the cone, this will enhance the penetration of riboflavin in the cone, the apex of the cone, and make a concentration gradient of riboflavin across the entire cornea. The other thing is that the oxygen establishment of oxygen gradient as well, because as I said, the epithelium over the apex of the cornea is removed, so there will be more oxygen available at that area and easy to penetrate the stroma as compared to the rest of the cornea. And this also create a oxygen gradient apart from the energy gradient that's due to the penetration of the penetration of the ultraviolet over the apex will be more because of the absence of the epithelium, and the programmable fluence gradient induced by the machine itself that delivers ultraviolet fluence more at the apex as compared to the rest of the cornea. All these variables make customization of the cross-linking, so that more cross-linking at the apex as compared to the rest of the cornea. Since invented the Dresden protocols, many studies conducted by doctors to study the efficacy of these protocols, and the result was very satisfactory and actually very amazing as far as the arrest of the progression of the keratoconus, stability of the cornea, improvement in the topography and the shape of the cornea, and also the K reading and the Kmax, and also to some extent improvement in the refraction of the patients. And by studying these results, all this was attributed to the good penetration of the ultraviolet inside the cornea and good riboflavin penetration inside the cornea, and also the good exposure time, that's 30 minutes for the ultraviolet. So that all this induces a very successful photochemical reaction that end up with stability and proper cross-linking of the cornea. As you can see here, this is the riboflavin. You can see that very good penetration because we remove the epithelium in the Dresden protocol. So the penetration of the riboflavin is very good. Also, the oxygen concentration inside the cornea will be very good, and then ultraviolet penetration is very good. All these factors contribute to the very successful results of Dresden protocols. As you can see, the success rate is very satisfactory and very amazing. After that, the doctors start looking to improve the technique of Dresden protocol, especially the limitation of the time. Now, you know that the Dresden protocol needs nearly 1 hour per eye. You need 30 minutes instillation or impipation of the cornea with the riboflavin, and you need another 30 minutes for the exposure for the ultraviolet. Now, the doctors start to think how to speed up this process. And the first ideas was coming from Pinali and Boxer, who invented the principle of transepithelial cross-linking at 2009. And he says simply that we can apply riboflavin directly to the cornea without abrasion of the cornea, and the result will be the same. But actually, when they start over 10 years applying these protocols, the result was very disappointing for the doctors and very unsatisfactory. And the reason that they found that the concentration of the riboflavin is markedly reduced because of the tight junction of the epithelial cells, so that there will be no good penetration for the riboflavin, and also for the oxygen concentration inside the cornea, and then also the penetration of the ultraviolet. At that time, the exact mechanism of cross-linking is not well understood by doctors. And when they apply the transepithelial protocol that's invented by Pinali and Boxer, they face these disappointing results. And this gives impression that transepithelial cross-linking is not valid anymore. After nearly a decade from disappointing results of the EB-ON technique or the transepithelial cross-linking, and many studies done to study how to improve the efficacy of this technique, and doing the proper validation for the results and study the different variables, as I said, the ultraviolet, the riboflavin, and the oxygen concentrations. And after 10 years, some doctors, they could succeed to solve some of the problems that they face them and contribute to the failure of the EB-ON technique. One of these doctors is the Dr. Mazzotti at 2014 from Italy, who has invented the iontophoresis technique for the active penetration of the riboflavin inside the cornea using an electrical current. And this technique was inspired from the previously known, what's known as the photophoresis, which is the active delivery or enhancement of the penetration of the drug inside the cornea using the ultrasound. But this technique was failed at that time because of the elevation of the temperature of the cornea, and that technique was abandoned. However, now the use of iontophoresis is by inducing an electrical current so that the negatively charged riboflavin particles will be attracted to the stroma, and this will enhance the penetrations. Now, after the inventing that technique, the result was improved too much as far as the concentration of the riboflavin inside the cornea, and the barrier for the epithelium for the penetration has been overcome, and the result also improved to some extent. But still it is not as effective as in the classical conventional Dresden protocols, because the other variables are still, they face a problem as far as the oxygen and the ultraviolet delivery. Still, many studies are going on to improve the oxygen concentration inside the cornea in the presence of intact epithelium, and the success came from the 2016 that they invented what's known as the pulsed ultraviolet energy delivery system. This pulsed ultraviolet delivery will give time for the oxygen to replenish. The oxygen which is depleted from the cornea during the photochemical reaction will be replenished. They induce a rhythm of 1 second pulse on and off. That's to say 1 second ultraviolet energy is on and 1 second is off. They show some improvement. But by studying the physiology of the cornea, they found that this one pulse on and off is not enough. And for a normal cornea, to replenish the depleted oxygen inside the cornea during this photochemical reaction, you need 1 second on, 3 minutes off. That's to say, you need to wait for 3 minutes, which is inconvenient because the aim is to speed up this process. So the results improved to some extent as far as the oxygen concentrations, but still the results are not that much satisfactory to the doctors. It shows better improvement as far as now the riboflavin concentration and the energy delivery, but still the result is not convincing, and the doctors still keep on how to improve the oxygen concentration inside the cornea. And that was discovered by Avidro. That's they provide a oxygen goggles with oxygen concentration, high oxygen concentration more than the natural air, using a 100% oxygen during the procedure, and that also shows a very good result as far as the efficacy of the cross-linking. But as I said, when we compare these techniques with the standard conventional protocol with the Dresden, still Dresden protocol is superior as far as the efficacy of the cross-linking techniques. After the introduction of the pulsed light way of delivering the ultraviolet energy, and also the oxygen concentration goggles, high oxygen concentration, now you can see that all the parameters has been improved. That's the riboflavin concentration by iontophoresis, the oxygen concentration by the high oxygen goggles, and also the ultraviolet delivery by pulsed light. Now the result was very good results for the efficacy of the cross-linking, and this makes the idea of AB-on cross-linking is comparable to the classical Dresden protocols. So now all the parameters are addressed. This is the pulse light, and this is the mode of energy and iontophoresis. And the first result study done shows by Mazzotti shows the very good efficacy of the high fluence iontophoresis with pulsed light, and the doctors start using this technique for an effective way of cross-linking of the cornea. Now, after the introduction of the iontophoresis and the oxygen goggles during the CXL techniques, a dramatic and paradigm shift in the efficacy of the AB-on technique of cross-linking has been achieved, and doctors was very satisfied with recreating the AB-on cross-linking technique. But still, the hassle of the equipments that during the technique, as you know, cross-linking is a minimally invasive technique. But because of the electrophoresis, iontophoresis, I mean, and the oxygen goggles, you need oxygen tanks, you need a major theater for this, and also the discomfort induced by the iontophoresis to the patients. Still, doctors think to how to refine the technique, and this came from the one group from Switzerland known as the from ILSA Institute, the Hafizi et al. Group, who invented the first EB-on technique, but it is a high fluence accelerated pulsed technique, is not dependent on oxygen because he utilizes a high fluence of energy, high fluence, which is the result of amount of the intensity of the ultraviolet multiplied by the time. So instead of being stuck to the 5.2 protocol as in Dresden protocol, he can increase the fluence up to 10 or up to 15 milliwatts. So by this technique of high fluence, he shortened the time, increased the amount of energy, and also there will be no need to much oxygen. Only pulsed delivery system will be enough because this technique mainly activate or stimulate the non-oxidative pathway of the cross-linking. So this result shows amazing result. He says that this is equivalent to the accelerated AB-off technique of 10 minutes for 9 milliwatts. And because of this huge revolution in the AB-on technique and the short duration of time that you can do the AB-on technique, he invented this CI machine that's deliver the amount of this energy on the slit lamp. So the cross-link technique becomes very simple technique that you can do it in 3 or 4 minutes on the slit lamp, and you can achieve a very good result as effective as the classical or AB-off accelerated cross-linking. So you can see here that he can use the same machine on the slit lamp, so you can do cross-linking on the slit lamp without any problems. So that in a few minutes that you can do cross-linking to your patients, and you achieve a very good result as far as stability and corneal rest of the progression of the disease and so on. So this was invented by the Hafizi et al. Group from ILSA Institute, and this is regarded as a revolution in the cross-linking technique. So it becomes more feasible and available for every doctors and easy to be applied on a slit lamp. And this, what he says, that this will democratize the use of cross-linking for every body. Now we come to the third type of the fourth generation customized CXL, which is the combined protocols, that is the use of corneal cross-linking along with other laser vision correction techniques like BRK or SMILE or LASIK. Now we come across a new term, which is the CXL plus. CXL plus means that we have a menu of doing cross-linking with different other refractive procedures or corneal stabilizing procedures, like the combination of CXL with intacs or intracorneal ring implantation. Also, we can combine CXL with custom surface ablation BRK, or with LASIK procedures, or with SMILE. Also, we can combine the CXL with the phakic intraocular lens implantation for correction of myopia that may coexist with keratoconus. So this is the menu of different types of CXL plus. But for us in this lecture, we will discuss mainly on the famous protocols, which is the use of trans epithelial PRK along with the CXL, that's the Athens protocol, or the use of the PTK only with CXL, that's the Cretan protocol. As you can see, there is a lot of protocols, but these are the most common and the most famous protocols. That's the Cretan protocol and Athens protocol. So the next discussion will be about the Athens protocol. Now, before we dive deeply to the Athens protocol, there are certain important facts that we should keep it in our mind, that although cross-linking is a procedure to stabilize and arrest the progression of the disease, but still the patients will suffer from degradation of his visual function because of the associated high order aberrations and still the coexistence of corneal irregularities. So the idea of combining the CXL with this one of the vision correction procedure is to improve to some extent the visual function of the patients, keeping in mind that this is not a totally refractive procedure, it is a therapeutic procedure. By therapeutic procedure, we mean that we partially improve the visual function, aiming to or targeting the high order aberrations, namely the coma and the spherical aberrations, also to partially improve the high astigmatism, and if possible, to some extent, the associated myopia, based on the available corneal thickness. So our aim is not just to as a refractive procedure, totally eliminate the need for glasses or to improve the visual function to large extent to the patients. But we are aiming for therapeutically improving the visual function by removing the high order aberrations and astigmatism only. So you should never promise your patient that you will be glass free, and he might still need to use his glasses or contact lenses even after this procedure. Another issue is that, as you know, that the keratoconus is the apex of the cone might be central or eccentric. So the challenging point is the how to do decentered treatment or decentered topography treatment based on the location of the cone. This is another area of challenge between doctors. Another area of challenge is whether we use the conventional cross-linking or the accelerated cross-linking. And there are a lot of studies showing the pros and cons for each type of these procedures. So as you can see from this chart that the combination of both the CXL along with the laser vision correction is some sort of balance between the need of the patient. What's your goal for your treatment? Your goal is to minimize the high order aberrations and to some extent the associated astigmatism, and not for totally eliminate the refractive error of the patient. As I said, this is a therapeutic procedure and not a refractive procedure. And from this chart, you can see that the CXL will guarantee the arrest for the progression of the disease and strengthen the cornea and improvement in the shape of the cornea. To some extent, will have some improvement of the visual function, as there will be some associated flattening of the cornea, but this is not the whole story. The whole story, you need still further refinement of this visual function by combining the PTK along with the CXL, which is known as the Crosslinking protocol, or we combine the PRK, that's the transepithelial PRK, along with the CXL, which is known as the Athens protocol. The combination of LASIK also is area of discussion between doctors, which is known as LASIK extra, and whether it is a real fact or it is just a noise, this is also an area of debate and discussion between doctors, as we are combining two different procedures that are to some extent work against each other as far as the corneal biomechanics. As you know, the LASIK will lead to reduction of the corneal biomechanics, and the CXL will lead to strengthening of the corneal biomechanics. So some doctors, they prefer to use PRK rather than LASIK in patients with keratoconus. So in the next discussion, we'll speak in details about the Athens protocols and the Crosslinking protocol. As I said before, that the Athens protocol is a variety of the CXL plus, which means trans PRK along with the CXL. And there is some general guidelines for the indication for this type of treatment, that it is suitable for people with mild degree of keratoconus, that's between stage 1 or stage 2. And the reason for that you have a minimum irregularity that you can regularize using the PRK. If you have advanced keratoconus with advanced irregularity of the cornea, now the PRK will not be sufficient to regularize, because we are aiming for minimum tissue ablations in these patients because they have a keratoconus. So we don't want to weaken their cornea. So a maximum limit of 50 microns is allowed for the PRK. If your patient has advanced keratoconus, better to go for another procedure like the implantation of the intracorneal rings. Then after that, you can further tuning the surface of the cornea with another PRK. So another indication that if you have a patient with poor visual acuity with a very good visual potential, so that your PRK will be suitable, because if your patient has excellent visual acuity, sometimes the CXL alone is enough to improve his visual function. Another important guideline is the thickness, that you have to have a minimum preoperative thickness of 450 microns, because you are going to ablate the epithelium, which constitute 50 microns, and then you have a range of 50 microns that you can ablate using the PRK. So the remaining stromal bed of 350 will be enough to protect the endothelium using the accelerated protocol. So a minimum preoperative thickness of 450 is very important in these patients. If your patient has less corneal thickness than this, so he might not be suitable for this way of treatment. Now, another point is that the protocol, as I said, it involves initially we will remove the skin of the epithelium, that's the skin of the cornea, that's the epithelium, using the BTK, which is programmed by the machine, which removes the initial 50 microns from the cornea. Then we will do a partial topography guided treatment. Partial means that we are not aiming for completely removing the refractive error, but we are targeting the high order aberrations and the astigmatism for improving his visual function. And even the astigmatism, if the axis is aligned between the manifest astigmatism and the corneal astigmatism, so we can use or treat 70% of this astigmatism. However, if it is not aligned at more than 15-degree difference between the corneal astigmatism and the manifest topographic astigmatism and the manifest astigmatism, so we can postpone this and use Cretan protocol rather than Athens protocol. All our aim is not to exceed the 50 microns that we can use, so we can utilize this 50 micron to improve as much as of our high order aberrations. After the ablations, we use one of the accelerated protocols. The commonly used one is the 9 milliwatt 14 minutes protocol after impipation with riboflavin. Now, this is another advantage, that this type of epithelial of accelerated protocol, that it will add more effect in the flattening of the cornea. Now, a lot of debate between doctors regarding the use of mitomycin or not to use the mitomycin. Also regarding the simultaneous treatment, that you simultaneously use the PRK along with the CXL or use it as a sequential technique. So there is some advantages, or most of the doctors believe that simultaneous PRK with CXL is superior than sequential treatment for many reasons. In the top, that it is convenient for the patient to do the procedure in one step rather than in a sequential steps. Also that the amount of ablation that you don't ablate a cross-linked fibers. Now, if you do sequential technique, you will ablate the cross-linked corneal fibers, which will weaken the corneal biomechanics. However, in the simultaneous techniques, you will not ablate a cross-linked fibers. Another thing, the amount of ablation will be predictable, because you cannot predict the response of a cross-linked cornea after the PRK. So now the ablation is predictable in this type of simultaneous treatment. And another thing, that some claim that the corneal haze will be minimum in simultaneous treatment, because during the simultaneous techniques, there will be apoptosis of the keratocytes and a minimum fibrosis will be there. So the corneal haze will be minimized. And as I said, that the amount of treatment will be more predictable in a virgin cornea as compared in cross-linked cornea. All these points are in favor of simultaneous treatment rather than sequential treatment. Of course, some doctors, they have another belief that the sequential treatment will be more effective in these patients, but these details are beyond the scope of our discussion. Our aim is just to show what are the components and the indications of the Athens protocol. The second combined protocol is Cretan protocol. Cretan protocol is using the excimer laser for removal of the epithelium, which is known as the photorefractive keratotomy, BTK, of 50 microns. And along with the removal of the epithelium, conventional Dresden protocol is applied. So the idea of Cretan protocol came from a case report that while doing the conventional Dresden protocol, they utilized the removal of the epithelium using the excimer laser, and they noticed that there is improvement in the flattening and the refraction of the patients after the use of excimer laser for removal of the epithelium. Now, this protocol involves removal of the epithelium of 6.5 to 7 millimeter using the excimer laser, and then extension of this epithelial removal mechanically up to 9 millimeter. Then you apply the classical Dresden protocol. So the Athens protocol is a combination of BTK along with tomography guided PRK and accelerated cross-linking. However, the Cretan protocols is just BTK with the classical Dresden protocol. Now, there is another protocol which is a modification of the Cretan protocol, which is known as Cretan Plus. Now, the Cretan Plus protocol, it is optimized to improve the refraction of the patients by applying a conventional PRK along with the BTK. So Cretan Plus is a conventional cross-linking with conventional PRK along with BTK, as compared to the Athens protocol, which is partial PRK along with the PTK and accelerated cross-linking. Now there is another modification of the Cretan protocol. Other indication for the use of the corneal cross-linking with other refractive procedures well known to all of the doctors, which is the LASIK procedure or the SMILE, known as LASIK extra or SMILE extra. Short-term result shows improvement in the patient's stability of the refraction after cross-linking and prevention to some extent of the regression, and also stability as far as post-LASIK ectasia. The procedure is that after doing LASIK ablation, we imbibe the cornea after good covering for the flap so that we will not cross-link the flap. We apply the riboflavin to the stroma for 1 minute, and then we return the flap back, and then apply the cross-linking for 80 seconds, around 45 milliwatt per square centimeter, a total dose of 3.6 joule per square centimeters. And by this way, we do cross-linking along with the LASIK procedures. Now, the other application is the use of hyperosmolar riboflavin in bullous keratopathy. They show that improvement in the central corneal edema and hence the visual acuity in patients with persistent bullous keratopathy with application of the hyperosmolar riboflavin, preceded by preoperative application of 40% glucose and intraoperative 70% glycerol, along with the cross-linking, so that we will reduce the central thickness of the cornea and reduction of the corneal edema. Now, there is a lot of discussion and debate between doctors regarding the efficacy of the LASIK procedure along with the cross-linking, whether this is a real music or just a noise. Some studies shows that there is no increase in the stability of the cornea, statistically significant increase in the stability of the cornea after combination of LASIK, because the LASIK is working in a different way, that it reduces the corneal biomechanics, and the use of combined cross-linking and LASIK, it might be just a false sensation of security, and it will not prevent the regression that happens after LASIK, or prevent the incidence or the prevalence of laser-induced keratoectasia. Now, the other common applications of the cross-linking also in combination with the intracorneal rings. Of course, there is certain indications for the application of the intracorneal rings in the management of keratoconus, and you can revise this in the lecture of the intracorneal rings. However, the combination of intracorneal rings with the cross-linking is well documented to improve the topography and the shape of the cornea, along with the improvement in the stability of the cornea. And many studies done in this regard and shows the efficacy of this mode of treatment, the combination of the intracorneal rings with the corneal cross-linking. Now, these intracorneal rings are synthetic rings. Now, recently there is application or the use of the allogenic grafts that's invented by Suzanne Jacob. We will speak about it and know the indications of the use of cross-linking in combination with the intracorneal ring. Before I finish this lecture, I just like to mention a few words about a recent advancement in the field of cross-linking of the cornea, which is known as the extracorporal cross-linking and is abbreviated as ADA-CXL. This ADA is what's meant by ADAMS, which is the ancient Greek meaning of indestructible, and it is the root of the word diamonds. It means indestructible corneal segments. So it is abbreviated as ADA-CXL. Now this ADA-CXL, as compared to the traditional corneal cross-linking, in which we apply the ultraviolet rays to the cornea directly. However, in the extracorporeal CXL, we apply the ultraviolet rays and we apply the cross-linking to the corneal segments outside the patients. And after cross-linking, we transplant it back to the cornea. So it is extremely easy to be inserted, because the corneal segments will be more stiff and only act as a collagen scaffold without any cells, because all the cells will be apoptosis and there will be dyed, so that it has a significant effect in the flattening in corresponding to the degree of stiffness. So we have both the stiffness and the flattening. This technique has been invented by Suzanne Jacob, but is further refined by Dr. Shadi Awad in cooperation with Zimmer's company, so that the femtosecond laser is used to cut these segments from the cornea, and then the cross-linking is applied outside the eye and can be tailored according to the need of the patients for the treatment of astigmatism as well as for the treatment of keratoconus. This is the shape of the segments after implantations, and it offers stiffening effect as well as regularization of the shape of the cornea and flattening of the cornea. You can see here the difference between the OCT segments, the traditional PMMA segments, and this is the all femtocaris, which is refined by the femtosecond. But now these segments are cross-linked outside the body, so the name extracorporeal cross-linking. As I said, that now recently invented is the use of caries in the management of keratoconus. Caries means that we use the allogenic intrastromal corneal tissue as corneal segments, and these segments will overcome a lot of the problems and the drawbacks of the synthetic intracorneal rings, namely the extrusion of the rings. Instead of the use of PMMA rings, we use the allogenic graft as a human corneas. Now, this technique initially was invented by Suzanne Jacob in 2016, and it was started as a manual trephination of the cornea. Now, this technique is further refined by Professor Shadi from Lebanon, that he utilized the femtoseconds to precisely enhance this procedure by creating the tunnels inside the stroma, and also preparing the intracorneal segments using the femtoseconds, and then expose these segments to the cross-link, so that increase the stiffness of these segments. Now, many studies done shows marked improvement in the shape and the topography of the cornea, along with the stability of the cornea, by using this type of treatment named as allo-femtocaries. Now, as we are speaking on the management of the keratoconus, so you can understand from our discussion that the improvement in the shape of the cornea, along with the use of corneal cross-linking, is mainly within three sectors. That's, you can use the intracorneal rings or the intracorneal rings femtocaries, or you can use the PRK, or you can use the PACE along with CXL. Now, what's the guidelines and the cutoff points to use these technologies? Now, it is said roughly if it is between 70 or 60 to 70 diopters of Kmax, you can use the intracorneal rings or the all femtocaries to improve and regularize the shape of the cornea. If your Kmax is between 50 to 60 diopters, at that time you can use the PACE CXL to improve the shape of the cornea. If your Kmax is less than 50 diopters, so at that time you can use the trans-PRK along with the wavefront guided or topography guided ablations to both improve the shape of the cornea as well as offer improvement in the visual function of the patient. These classifications are based on the Farhat Hafizi classification of how we approach the case of keratoconus to improve his vision. So that we are not just aiming to arrest the progression of the disease. We are not just aiming to improve the topography of the cornea, but we have more expectation by improving the visual function of the patients utilizing these different techniques. So by this way, we reach to the end of this lecture, and I hope that we will meet soon in another session, namely the use of the intracorneal rings. So I hope that you have benefited from this lecture, and I am looking forward to meet you soon. إلى ذلك الحين استودعكم الله وأتمنى لكم دوام الصحة والعافية. بهذا القدر نصل إخواني أعزائي أبناء الطلبة إلى نهاية هذا الجزء من محاضرة الكروس لينكينج. تناولنا فيها العديد من جوانب استخدام الكروس لينكينج في علاج القرنية المخروطية. نتمنى أن تكونوا قد استفدتم من هذه المحاضرة، والمحاضرة الجاية ستكون عن استخدام الانتراكورنيال رينجز in the management of كيراتوكونس. إلى ذلك الحين يتجدد بكم اللقاء. استودعكم الله وأتمنى لكم دوام الصحة والعافية، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.